and there's other offerings I've been doing. So it's like if you had to label me, you call me a practitioner. I find an offering, and then I'll do it, and the mysteries are in the offering, and that's really the best place to find them. But silver, like water, helps us look into the mirror of ourself, just like or the mirror of our emotions, and so that element, like the moon's, doing the tides and everything that it does, and if you're a woman, it's pulling on your body, the tides and the ebb and the flow in your body. But it's in the stillness of the water and going deep in our emotional body that we can look at the mirror and reflect our actions, our programming, our patterns, and heal. So that's the power of silver.
When I started researching years ago, I was very touched by the symbol of the fleur-de-lis, and I wasn't really sure why, but I felt a very strong presence that this was very powerful for me, and I'm still not totally sure, but I immediately saw that the symbol of the fleur-de-lis is on your website, and much of the work that you do is what I might say Gnostic, or what can you explain the fleur-de-lis and the symbology of what the basis of your work?
Okay. The fleur-de-lis has been with me since I was 13. My mom gave me the most incredible little tiny pin that was one of my favorites, of two fleur-de-lis, and one was like with red rhinestones with a chain connected to another one that was just silver. They were both in silver, but one had rhinestones. I wore it all the time. I loved it. Not until later did I understand the power of it. In the Catholic medieval symbols, they often say the fleur-de-lis is the womb of the Virgin Mary. But truth be held, it was chosen by the royalty of France, and it goes all the way back to the very first French kings of France, which were the Merovingians. And they chose it because they believed it was the womb of Mary Magdalene. And if you take a fleur-de-lis and turn it from upside down to right side, upside, you take it and you turn it, it looks like the womb of a woman. It's the same shape of the symbol of the womb. And so the original kings of France believed or claimed, that they were the bloodline of Christ and Mary Magdalene. And there's all kinds of legends, there's all kinds of stories. It's very, very, well known nowadays, But that's why, so it's used as a bloodline symbol, and you'll see it all through France. But very few understand the roots of why that was chosen. And there's a lot of different theories on it, and with all those theories. But for me, I was attracted to it, and I lived in France for 4.5 years. So in that 4.5 years, I did a lot of going on pilgrimage, visiting the Black Madonnas, following the Magdalene Trail. And that was between 2006 and 2010. And ended up writing a book on those sacred pilgrimages. And when I came back home in 2010. But in 2014, when my mom died, who pretty much gave me my first religious training, and she was very devoted. And when she was dying, she died, and after she died, my son, let's say, she did not know who her father was, so that was her pain. That was a really, really deep pain in her life of not knowing her lineage, her complete lineage. And so after she died, my eldest son had been researching, and he's really very brilliant. He comes in with the research of my father's lineage. And that lineage goes back to the very first kings of France, all the way back to 70 AD, past even into the Merovingian line, and it's a direct lineage. Now, I'd already been in France, I'd already written the book, and I had no idea.
Wow.
And I had written a book about this lineage. I had really deep experiences with that lineage, and also with the fleur-de-lis. And here, it was like my gift, my mother's dying gift was, I might not know my lineage, but you sure in the hell are going to know yours. And so that was given to me. And my son and nobody in the family actually understood what that meant, because they didn't know the history of France. And as soon as I started looking at the lineage, I said, oh my God. So I was pretty shocked, and I think it's a good idea I got it after. So I didn't write the book with a lot of ego, of going, oh, here I am, a Merovingian princess, I didn't write from that angle. I was just writing from my experience, and it's really good because we all have an ego, and, but that's why that is there on my website, and that's the meaning of that for me.
Amazing. I was realizing I did not pronounce Merovingian correctly.
That's okay. My French, I'm dyslexic, and, my French, is never was up to par, and I never could do it very well. So everybody was really, really kind to me in the people around me with my pronunciation. And, so I might not even pronounce it right, but that's how I pronounce it.
So I've done a bit of study. Could you touch on who the Merovingian kings were and how that relates to Magdalene?
Okay, well, these things, there's nothing in history that proves this, okay? But and of course you have to remember too, the Catholic Church was in power, and this was against their doctrine. But what was left throughout many of the cathedrals in France were symbols and archetypes in the tarot, in the cathedrals, in the paintings. The Merovingians were actually a tribe that came, they were a tribal people, and they came up through what is now Belgium and Germany. And they came into France after Rome, the Roman Empire, started deteriorating, because Rome actually had taken over Gaul. Mm-hmm. The Roman Empire went, into Gaul and all the way up into England and, Scotland and this area. So when the Roman Empire fell, that left a void. And so this northern tribe of the Merovingians came in and took over Paris. And Paris at that time was just the island Île-de-Cité, which is what Notre Dame stands on, the center of. And so that was the headquarters. And at the same time, you have this history in Gaul of Mary Magdalene landing after the crucifixion in an oarless boat with her servant Saint Sarah, her sister Martha. There's different, in that legend, there's different people in the boat, but there's always Mary Magdalene. And she lands in Sainte-Marie de Mer, which is in the southern part of France, which used to be, at that time, called the city of Ra, R-A, like the Ra, the sun god of Egypt. was the name. And then she spread the gospel through what was Gaul. And, some say that there was, there's the legend of Sansera, maybe being the child of Jesus and Mary, and that she was pregnant when she landed. And that thought is all through the cathedrals, written and hidden in so many places in France. And so the Merovingians, claimed that this was their lineage. And, there's legends like they came from an aquatic beast. That's one of, their bloodline came from an aquatic beast. But if you look at the mermaid, which would be an aquatic beast, is half fish and also a half-naked woman with long, long hair. And if you decode that symbol, that woman with the long hair that's naked, who was the Saint Magdalene, and the symbol of the half-fish is the symbol of Jesus as the fish. And if you even go back further in that heresy symbolism, the Pisces at the stage of Jesus was born in the age of Pisces, the age and the symbol of Pisces is the fish. So you go all the way back into the foundations of Egypt, because remember what we're talking at many of the sacraments, like the Eucharist, is old Egyptian mysteries that the Catholic Church incorporated into the Mass. And so if you look at that mysteries, if you look at that overlay of the Catholic Church and looking underneath that many of the mysteries of Isis and Osiris are there, when Isis puts together the broken body of Osiris and makes him whole again, there's 14 pieces. But the 13th piece is swallowed by a fish in the ocean, or a fish in the river. And that was his penis. And so that's like a mystery of the celibate, that in the age of Pisces, the age of celibacy became, in the church, happened. Because, so I just kind of decoded these different layers of symbolism. And so my thread to this information is, it's not on a linear, it's not very linear, but you have to know the legends and the stories. And then you find the breadcrumbs through the symbols. So, that's the symbol of the Merovingians, and that's how deep back it can go, is, all those symbols. So it's almost like a domino effect. You touch one, and then if you know those symbols, they just all, take you to a different view.
I love that. One of my favorite things is to dive into this sort of mysterious research and allow for, your spirit to be just ministered to. And then being able to decode it like this it's very personal. So you've written about all of this. You have numerous books, including your journeys and pilgrimages, and you've written a recent book.
Yeah. That one is The Hidden Magdalene in the Tarot Marseille. And so the Tarot Marseille is the French tarot. And, I have different... And so I'm reading those symbols out of that particular deck. And it was... the tarot itself, if you realize, there was, it was in a climate. The tarot was being created in a climate of during the Inquisition, and actually many tarot painters were burned. The tarot wasn't that popular by everybody in the church, but